People, did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Welcome back, Hills and Quads Media. It's Creatures Asylum. It's my little Kiss corner. Now that Kiss is gone, I have so much time to not just listen to Kiss, but do Kiss-related content. Rob from Right Between the Eyes is joining us. Brant from In My Head, he's back. He was on the pre-show. Now he's on the post-show because there's a lot to talk about. But we're going to do it quickly.
Yeah.
Where do you guys want to start?
Thoughts about the show?
Who wants to
Rob?
start?
The-
Rob, you start.
The sound was horrible.
As the resident drummer in the room, and Brant's a drummer as well, what the flip was up with the drums? It's nothing that Eric was doing wrong. It's either from the pay-per-view, the house mics, because you could hear like conversations, like the ambient mics were picking up stuff. So just in the hi-hat work, it was like, man, does Eric not know how to play? And then as you're watching the video, I'm counting time and measure going, nope, he's playing exactly right. It's just all this weird reverb. The solo was the thing I was like, all right, I get one more drum solo from Eric Singer. And I'm going, that was what he played. Looked great.
It sounded like 2 or 3 drummers playing at the same time,
Right.
slightly off beat from each other. Because
we were messaging the whole show pretty much, and like Rob was like, "What are they going to do with the solo? Like, what's going on?" And especially during the solo, it was like,
yeah.
Eric got no love during the rest of the concert.
Yeah,
they got no love,
it was one shot.
They kept showing the same camera angles, the same static camera angles over and over and over.
Yeah, Paul's was like to the side, and then Gene's was like right up as Schmeckel.
Yeah. Well,
the pay-per-view camera work is horrible compared to what the actual production camera work that you see on the big screens. I mean, they could have just done that feed.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and it would have been perfect. And if they could have done, but I know what they did is they had. You could see, I kept seeing them. They had these like 360 mics. It was like mics that was pointed in different directions. And they had them, and they did that to pick up the house. The problem was the mix was bad. That was a predominant mix, and it was picking up the sound of the crowd. You could hear people really close to the mics, like they were in the room talking with you. So you could tell that was just a dominant part of the mix. And so what you were hearing was the sound of the drums and everything else just bouncing around inside of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And it muddied the sound so much. It was really, really, I mean, the audio that I recorded on my iPhone 14 Pro of the concert, me sitting at the back of the arena in 17 rows from the back of the arena, my audio sounded better than that.
So did mine.
I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah. All of that being said, I mean, one other funny thing is, I don't know if you know, when like Paul grabbed a set of Eric's sticks and was throwing them, you could hear somebody drop one and it hit the concrete floor of the arena. I'm like, okay, that's the mic problem. So all of that complaining aside, I did think the show, it looked good, other than a couple little glitches. Anytime that you're streaming anything, you're going to have those buffering issues and things like that. But it looked good, seeing the amount of the confetti and lasers, like everything that they had, they brought to that show. It looked great. Aside from, again, drum things, I think things mostly sounded good. Certain things were up in the mix, but there was no point I thought like, oh, this is a waste of my time, because I think we were all just there to see the last send off, that that you can walk away from this and going, I got to see the very last Kiss show in real time with everybody else. So
yeah, I wasn't expecting changes, as I said in the beginning,
Yeah.
in the pre-video. I wasn't expecting changes, and none of my complaints that I had have to do with the band or the performance of the band themselves. They
No.
gave everything that they had, just like they did when we saw them in Chicago. They gave everything they had. They played great. I think they were really going after it. It's just it wasn't the greatest mix. The camera work. I mean, during Eric does that at the end of Making Love. Eric does that amazing long drum fill, and they didn't even show it. And I know that they show it because of the production. They have a camera that looks down on Eric's drums, and you see him go through the whole thing. And they then went to the front camera where the very end, where he don't have as many toms as Peter did, so he just does a roll on the bass drum and hits the cymbals for the last few drum beats. And so they show that in the production when you're actually seeing it live in the stadium, in the arena. So, but none of my qualms or my complaints are with the actual band themselves. I think they played a great last show, and every time a song would come on, once they got to Making Love, and I was like, okay, getting about halfway through, and then they got to Black Diamond, and I was like, and I actually said in our thing, I'm like, man, we're coming up on the last part, and or coming up on the middle, and Rob's like, we're at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, it's Black Diamond, we are at the end. And he started playing those first few strums on the guitar, and I started tearing up. I'm like, man, this is it. This is it.
That's what got me too, was Black Diamond. Right before he gets back on the truss to fly back to the stage, he waves like this. I sent the picture in the group. He's waving like this, and he goes, bye. And I went, waterworks, man. It was flowing. But I mean, I thought the band played great. There's a few sour notes here and there, but I like that. I like it to sound raw. I want to hear mistakes. And the same with Paul's voice. Like, there could have been no backing tracks or anything. And I mean, there were, it was obvious, but I wanted none. I was like, I don't care if he sounds like crap. Like, I don't care. I want warts and all. I want to hear the band one last time. Blow your voices out. If this is the last time you're ever going to do it, make it worth our, all of our $50. Make it $50 well spent, because we're paying half of $100 bill just to watch this from home. And basically a show that you guys just saw, the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
That's the insane part. Like, I'm watching it going, it's one thing, like, you see the tour, you buy the DVD, you go, oh, I remember it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this felt like yesterday, and that's a good thing that it was that fresh in our minds. But I don't know about you guys, but I just started having that. This is a History Day for me. 34 years ago today, I played a Christmas show at our local town that does it every year. So my best friend and I were in the same room, and I said, 34 years ago today, on December 2nd, we ran home to my parents' house to get a break from the cold, to have some hot chocolate, and I taped Headbangers Ball the previous week because he didn't have cable. So we're fast forwarding, and we saw Hide Your Heart for the first time. And it was that moment that made us Kiss fans. So I told him, I said, I'm done playing. I only live 2 minutes away from the little venue we played. And I said, I'm going to go home from this Christmas festival and watch Kiss for the very last time. Like, that felt really like every song that came on, I could sit there and remember going, oh, I remember playing in the backyard basketball, shooting hoops, to Making Love, and discover, like, I got this rock and roll over, and we're turning the album cover around and around, like, which way's up? Just like the flood of emotions just start coming back. So like you said, during like Black Diamond, or just little things that Paul would say, I was like, nope, I'm not shedding a tear. Shout it out loud. We're in song 2,
Yeah, I was the same way. I mean, my wife's at work. She works overnight. So I was texting her, oh my God, it's the last time they're ever going to play Detroit Rock City. Oh my God, it's the last fire breathing. It's the last blood spitting. It's the last love gun. That was a big one for me.
Dr. Love.
My
Dr.
favorite
Love
song.
hit me.
Yeah, Dr. Love. Yeah, when he.
Last
I love that. I think it's
rock and roll
hilarious.
over.
It's
the
crazy,
last rock and roll all night.
And it was like Gene just kind of gave up on Rock and Roll Night. The mic on the lift wasn't working.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, "What the hell? Like, how are we? Like, start it over. We don't care. Like, we'll hear it again."
You mostly could hear Eric on the background vocals.
Yeah,
Eric. Yeah,
he sounded great.
He did sound great.
Yeah, you talking about sour notes? I put it in the chat when we were watching it. There was this one note where Gene, he just blew a note on the bass, and he had this look on his face like,
yeah,
oh well, but he just, but his bass playing the rest of the night. I mean, he was perfect in the mix. I'm listening through my surround sound playing it on the TV. My sub's right behind the couch I'm sitting on, and his bass was just right in my back, and I was just like, man, this sounds so good. Gene, he's just such an underrated player when it comes to those slides and those woo he was doing all night.
It's the best.
Tommy, you were killing me. I was getting ready to say like, oh, listen to Gene, and I would look up. I'm like, oh, Tommy already said that. So the next time Gene would do something, I'd be like, oh, Gene, I'm just gonna let Tommy comment about Gene.
Sometimes you just have to tell me to shut up.
No. That was great. That was great.
I actually, my wife was like, "Are you crying yet?" I sent her a picture of me crying during Black Time, and I was like, "There, go show your doctor boyfriend now."
My wife came back through the room at one point. I had some leftover money bag soda, and she's like, "Do you need another one of these?" And she goes, "Do you need any tissue?" I was like, "No, I don't need tissue. Give me that soda.
Get out of my room."
My wife was in the kitchen finishing up some Christmas candy, and it was when she couldn't see the TV because our kitchen's like off to the side, and it was when they had done Beth. And they had came out and given out the sticks, and they're walking, and Gene and Paul kind of stand there like they did with their arms, and they're looking, and Paul's smiling and doing the thing on his heart, and I was sitting there and I was watching that, and because you could see it real up close. They did very, very similar to whenever they were in Chicago. It seemed it was a little more drawn out for New York. But I'm sitting there and I'm just watching this, and that's what started getting me. That's when I just started bawling, and I'm sitting here and like tears running down my face, and my wife's like, "They have an awful lot of dead space in their shows. I mean, what are they doing right now?" I'm like, "They're saying goodbye."
Way to lighten the mood.
They're saying goodbye. She's like, "Why are you going?"
Can we throw dirt on this casket already? I got crap to do.
No.
She's like, they're not. And as soon as the thing is like Kiss for, she's like, what was the announcement? I'm like, oh, it's like a new era. It's like Kiss Forever. And she's like, I told you they weren't gone.
That's so funny. After it was
I got
over,
so many texts saying they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I went into the bedroom. My wife's like, so when's the reunion tour start? I was like, it's not the reunion tour. She was like, okay, whatever you say.
Yeah.
You went to your last show on Monday. Sure you did.
Yes, I'm using quotations.
I know it sounds stupid.
You're watching your last show. Yeah. But all in all, even though, I mean, I paid almost half of what I paid to get into. I mean, I had additional expense like a hotel room and airplane tickets and stuff like that. But my ticket to get into Rosemont was only $90. So I paid almost half of what I paid for a ticket to watch it and to come from my own home, which I thoroughly enjoyed because I don't like people. I didn't have to stand out in the cold. I didn't have to fly on a crowded airline. I didn't. So
I've come to that point where like we took my oldest to a concert this past summer, and I'm like, I don't like being around this many people anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, for Kiss, I mean, I would have bit the bullet, but Yeah, because this last, the last 50, they were in St. Louis, and that's like 4.5 hours away. And I was like, man, I should do that. And I was like, yeah, but it's always like once it gets close to December, I'm like, I can't do anything. It's too close to Christmas with kids in the house, and 2 of my 3 kids have birthdays the same week as Christmas, so great timing on my part. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, and we were talking about it before. There were complaints about Beth. Like we all, I think, collectively thought it was great.
I think that was one of Eric's better. I think he's always done very well with the song. There's been, maybe nights here or there, but I thought he was, aside from the audio issues, I think Eric was spot on. It was hard to see him, but getting that up close shot of him doing Beth sounded very similar to what we heard in Rosemont. And I was like, I thought it was great. I had no issues.
I'm just kind of glad now with this part of the band being over with. Now maybe we won't have so many fans that constantly complain about other people being in the makeup.
Yeah.
Because I'm really tired of that argument.
Same here. My best friend, he and I just had that conversation. He's on that side of like, the whole like, well, why'd they have to put him in the makeup? Why couldn't they give him, like Tommy's bandit or Paul's bandit makeup and the hawk and, all of those type of things. And I'm like, I'm glad that those conversations don't have to go anymore. And
it's not just a band, it's a brand.
Yeah,
it's a business. They're making money off of what they created, so why not?
Yeah, you did New Coke and you changed the logo, and look how that happened.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if it was any of us, wouldn't we do the same thing? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I try to, even if I was selling it, like I was telling my wife, I'm like, well, they're selling their brand, so they're going to be limited on what they can and can't do. And if they sell their brand and they're still involved, it's almost like they're now the hired guns. If they sell the brand to, say, like Disney or whoever they end up selling it to, who knows? But if they, of course, they may still have there may be some stipulations in that contract that, okay, well, if we're still going to continue to live on, you guys are going to have some type of involvement, and you will continue to be paid or whatever. I mean, I don't know what the deal is, but there has to be something where they have to remain involved. Otherwise, I mean, I'd still like to see Kiss make some new music, even if it's just Gene and Paul making music and singing, and Tommy and Eric, either playing drums or whatever. I think it'd be cool. Like we were talking, like what's next for Kiss. I think it'd be cool for them to still do the Kiss cruises or do the
bring the expos back.
Do the expos and like bring in people, like bring in guests. I said during the pre-show, like bring in John 5 and do a set with like John 5, or bring Bruce, do a set with Bruce. I think a lot of people was like, oh, well, we're Ace and Peter. Ace is just, he wants to do his own thing. And Peter's kind of doing his own thing too. He's hitting like the horror con circuits and doing his meet and greets and his photos and, signing his autographs for $80 an autograph. And so, I mean, that's kind of like what he's doing now.
Well, and Peter's been beat up since the reunion tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
since you brought it up, I don't know if you guys want to go this route or not. Was everybody else needed for this show? Did we need Bruce and Ace and Peter and Vinny and all that stuff? Should everybody have come out? Like Kicks, when they did their farewell, they brought everybody out, and Gene and Paul were like, well, people aren't the right height, and what are they gonna have people in non-makeup come up? There was a small brief moment in that long pause before Beth came out. I was like, oh, what's happening right here? That was the only moment in the show where I remember in Rosemont, Beth, like the lights went out, a few minutes to bring that piano up, and then not even a few minutes, what seemed like seconds, and Beth started, and it was a good couple minutes of like just empty space. So was everybody else needed, or did it need to end as it did?
If they were not going to change the show at all, which they didn't, then it just needed to be the way it was. Me personally, if I would have had my rathers, and this is something we talked about in the pre-show also as well, is I would have liked to have seen, even if they did not play an instrument at all or pick an instrument up, I think that there should have been, if this is truly was a celebration of Kiss, all eras, there should have been a part in the show, even if they did the same exact set, that they stopped, maybe at the end, maybe before Beth, cut out a song, cut out the dueling guitar thing, whatever, and say, this is truly a celebration. We're thankful for the fans. We're thankful for Ace Frehley and Ace come out. We're thankful for Peter Criss come out. We're thankful for Bruce Kulick come out. We're thankful for Vinnie Vincent come out. And although they're not with us here anymore, we're thankful for Eric Carr and Mark St. John, and have them on the big screen in the back. They were we were talking off camera before we got started. I was talking about how I jumped over and I was watching Kiss FAQ, and they brought up a good point that Bruce or Eric or Vinny, no shots in the background ever included them.
There used to be on the end of the road. I remember seeing when they were doing Deuce, you would get the Deuce dance from all the different eras. If they had a Hot in the Shade, they showed Eric in makeup or whatever. So the only shot of anybody else was in the, what would we say, Kiss, Rosemont, we love you. In the logos, they had a Killers picture. Then it would morph into Alive 3. Then it would morph into whatever till, God Gave Rock and Roll to You went out. So there was a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. There was some 70s era footage mixed in there, but there was no non-makeup footage anywhere, which,
Yeah, they had the kind of like the montage during the beginning of Do You Love Me? I think it was. And then there were a couple of times. What song was it Gene flubbed the verse tonight? I wanted to talk about that before I got
War Machine.
It was War Machine. Yeah.
He usually flubs War Machine or I Love It Loud.
Yeah, I Love It Loud. He always the verses, the second and third verse. He
sings the second verse first.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, as far as I think the show, like you said, Brant, the show is what it is, or was what it was. Now, I guess I should say past tense. But if they weren't going to change anything, there's no point. However, yeah, it would have been nice to at least see them come out to and be honored, because let's face it, without the original four,
right,
it wouldn't have happened.
At least acknowledged.
Yeah. I mean, Eric Carr's name was never even brought up in the whole show.
No.
Which is a shame. I mean, he's not with us anymore, but I mean, especially the fans.
But he was a major contributor during the 80s.
Yeah. And I mean, and without Bruce, they probably wouldn't have made it through the 80s. I mean, they probably would have. I mean, but he was a big part of it, and also the fans love Bruce.
Well, Paul pats himself a lot on the back for their survival during the 80s.
Well, sure, and he should. I mean, he did. He worked his butt off. To an extent,
he did. He did Animalize by himself. He did, but he had two very good, strong musicians there with him to help him. Eric could play the bass. Bruce could play the bass. Paul could play the bass. And so, all they couldn't do was sing Gene's vocals. So they got the best they could out of Gene's vocals, and they re-recorded a lot of his bass. So, but he had two good people there with him. I mean, we both know he can do a solo album he can do an album by himself.
Yeah.
As long as he has a good guitarist, a good lead guitarist, he can do an album by himself. He did it with his 78 solo album, but he didn't do Animalize and Asylum and Crazy Nights by himself. minus Gene. He had Ace. He had Eric and Bruce there, and they were huge during that time. For him.
And it wasn't him just, it wasn't just him, but he was, he was leading it. He was taking care of the band. And that was like, there's a story about how, Gene or Paul kind of pulled Gene aside and said, "Hey, I'm doing this all by myself. You need to get your head out of your ass and, put it back where we're making money. Cause this acting thing ain't paying off, buddy." Something to that extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it would have been nice, like I said, but I think it's always been that it was like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's like they didn't play because, it's like, well, we don't want to play with Ace and Peter, but also Ace and Peter don't want to play with Tommy and Eric with them being in their makeup that they designed.
Right.
So it was always going to be that weird, what do we do? You don't want to have two spacemen up there. You don't want to have two kitty cats running around.
Right.
Right.
I don't know. It is what it is. I thought it was a good show. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I did too. There was no part of me that was like, well, it wasn't what it's exactly what I expected. It looked as good as I thought it was going to. And I'm looking forward to watching the replay when it's available. I'll do that one more time. I recorded the audio. We'll see how that turns out.
I think it would be great if they clean it up, especially that audio, and maybe pull some of the, maybe do a compilation and pull some of the pay-per-view video and the production video.
Yeah.
And maybe let Tommy re-edit it. He's a great video editor.
Thank you.
Let him re-edit it. Yeah, Tommy.
I had to.
The three of us, we could re-edit it.
Oh yeah, we could have filmed it. At least we know the songs and we know the.
Yeah. This person does this. Hold camera here.
Yeah. Well, like even when Gene was spitting blood, they didn't even get all that.
No, yeah. I thought, I know we were texting back and forth for a little bit, but I was like, I don't think I was gone from my phone that long that I missed that.
I wonder if Brant's gonna be able to come back in. I don't know what happened. Maybe his phone died.
Could be.
I was checking to see if the replay was up yet.
I was wondering if Kiss Online had. Oh, there we go. The website is updated.
The replay is up as well.
Okay.
All right. I don't know. Did he message? Did you happen to check?
No, I haven't seen him come back on. I am texting. This is always good for live.
Right. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, we have a lot of dead space like Kiss does in their show,
That's right. We're trying to get the piano to come up.
We're playing it for that live feel.
Right. We want to give you.
Yes, Ashley, I did cry like a baby. Thank you. Hello, Rob. Yo, yo, yo. All right. Let's see. Any other thoughts on it?
No, other than I think now that we're living in a new normal, all of a half hour after the show or so, wondering exactly what this new version of Kiss is going to be, what's it going to look like. But I think at the back of all of our minds, that might be cool to go check out and see what it is, but it comes back to where it always has for me, is music. What's the next vinyl that I'm going to pick up? What's the next box set? What's the next physical thing, or the product aside from this? Because I think it comes back. We got used to the Off the Soundboard series. That I'm looking forward to that coming up. What does Universal have? I can't believe that they're just going to sit on a vault of, they could release these soundboard shows for eons with as much as they claim to say that they have. And I know we don't have. I tell you one thing that I was kind of expecting was a Kiss streaming type of a service.
Yeah, we talked about that on the pre-show too. I've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Like even like when Netflix first started streaming, I'd be like, oh man, that would be cool if I could just go somewhere and find all of Kiss's concerts.
Yeah. Even just as far as it's very, very rare. I have always bought a lot of concert DVDs, VHSs, and you can go on any Netflix or Paramount Plus and see movies from the 80s, 70s, 90s, into the 30s. But it is very rare to find concert DVDs, VHS that has been put on some type of a streaming site that you could go back to and watch.
Remember that from our chat?
Oh yeah, the Avatar. For who was it? Xander had said said the Immortals video game.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I actually thought it was at first. I was like, those look like the McFarlane figures, which they're out of my reach. They're behind the
that
flag there.
Spot though in that video, that preview where Gene's wings open up.
Yes,
that looks so cool. It kind of, because I mean, Psycho Circus, I was 11 when that came out. So, I mean, like the album wasn't the greatest, but I also remember getting it at midnight when it came out. Like,
ditto. Yeah.
Like, that was it, man. I was like, this is so cool. Original Kiss is, putting out a new album. Because, I mean, and then we all thought they played on it.
Right.
And then we listened to it, and even my 11-year-old brain goes, that's not Ace Frehley playing.
Yeah. Like, instantly, I'm like, I've not heard Peter play that type of a lick before.
Yeah, that's not very jazz influenced.
No, not at all. But, I mean, all in all, it's, I don't know if Brant said it on your pregame or whatever. So I'm glad I got to see it twice in Sydney. That's cool.
Nice.
But
I've always wanted to go to Australia, let alone see Kiss in Australia.
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
That would be bonus. But just to go someplace like that would be amazing. It's always funny. Like, there were tours that I missed for whatever reason. Like, I didn't get a chance to see this because the wife and I were doing something else. I'll go see him next time. I think for a lot of us, I think I saw 5 or 6 shows on this tour, which is the most I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because it was like that fear of missing out. I wanted to know the last show that I saw was the last show that I saw. And we've always just had this notion of like, they're going to be here.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to be here, like they said, in whatever this new thing is. But physically being able to go to the show, and there's Paul Stanley, there's Gene Simmons, they were always here. And now you go, am I physically going to see them again in a place where I could stand next to them?
Right. Yeah. Breathe the same air, be in the arena as them, that these people that we grew up idolizing and, put on their makeup, even as bad as it might be and smeared and, because there's a difference between $2 Walmart Halloween costume makeup and, their makeup. It's a huge difference. But yeah, I mean, like, I mean, even since me and my wife have been married, like, there was so many tours in that time, I mean, we've been together 13 years. And that time, it's like, I know. Yeah. Oh, they're a little closer this time. Maybe we'll go to this show. And then, I'd have to work or whatever, especially when you have little kids in the house. You're like, I don't, do we need to spend the money? Not really. I've seen them, so. It is what it is. I mean, I wish I would have went one more time, but I kept saying I'm not. That last time I saw him, I got to go. My first Kiss concert was with my mom. My last one, my mom went. I got to take my little sister. My wife went, and all 3 of my kids went. And that was the last time I shaved my beard to wear Paul Stanley's makeup, and all 3 of my boys wore makeup. So
what year was that?
That was 17.
17, okay. It
was kind of like when they did like the little chunk of shows and the creatures costumes before they did the cruise.
Gotcha.
Because it was the end of September, so it was like a month before the cruise.
Because they did like the Kiss World. Was
Because we saw them in Rogers, Arkansas, at the Walmart amphitheater, because that's like the mecca of Walmart over there. And then I think they did one show in like Dallas or Houston the night before, and then they did the Mexico City show, like the Loud in Mexico, or I don't remember what it was called. But yeah, and it was cool because I always really liked the creatures costumes.
Same here.
And as much as I'm glad he didn't do it, I was like, little part of me was like, Eric Singer would look really cool in the
Fox.
makeup.
I know. I mean, it was cool to see the fur,
the
fur worked
yeah.
on the Catman makeup, but I was like, man, that'd have been a nice little tip to the hat to Carr. But
I don't
even
think
then,
you could do it though.
No.
Because I mean, Eric originally, you know, kind of came in when Eric got sick. So
yeah.
Well, it's over, man. That part of our lives is in the books.
Yeah. The new normal now begins.
What can we buy now to remember?
Right. I'm wearing the money bag hat and jeans going, I've got product for you. But yeah, this was fun, being able to, watch it in real time with you guys.
Yeah,
and
man. It was
text back and forth.
super
First
fun.
time I've got a chance to talk to you like this.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. I'd love to do it. I'd love to do this again and have you on, and maybe me, you, and Brant could all do something together when his phone's not dead, when he's in his office.
His office, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on right between the eyes.
Sure, yeah.
As well.
Anytime,
That'd be
man.
great.
Yep.
Cool.
Anytime. Well, thanks for joining me, and thank you all for watching. Thanks to everybody who watched the pre-show. Fantastic numbies there. Love it. Love to see people chiming in. We saw on this, I saw Australia. I saw a few other places. Pre-show, we had a couple of people from Brazil. It's awesome. Cool. Branching out, man. Love it. Japan, where are you at? I see you in the analytics all the time. I want to know where you're at in the live streams. Probably the time difference, I'm assuming.
Probably.
But anyways, yeah. So if you want to plug Right Between the Eyes, where can they find you? I'll put the link in the description afterwards.
We are primarily an audio podcast. That's how we started. And I was using YouTube because we recorded through Zoom and StreamYard. Yep. So I would take a little sample of it as a preview and put that up on YouTube. And I was like, oh, maybe we'll start doing YouTube episodes. So in 24, we'll probably have an audio only with a stagnant picture. But then when we do like special things like this, we'll do full episodes. But you can find us on any podcast catcher audio, and then we're on YouTube, Twitter, X, or whatever it's called, Facebook. So Right Between the Eyes. 3 generations of Kiss fans, a father and son, and then me. So I'm the 80s, 90s guy, and you've got Nick, who has been there since 1975, and then his son, his first show was the Sonic Boom Live 35.
Wow.
35 2. Boom.
All right, man. And also, Brant, his phone died. He did finally message. He's going to bed. So in my head channel, I'll put it in the description. You can search it in my head channel on YouTube. And as always, he's got great stuff on there. I'm going back on there. We're gonna do something. I don't want to announce it. That's his show. And then we're gonna do something. Probably starting in January, I'm going to start doing a lot more Kiss content. So since I ranked them, that video's done so well, or all those videos did so well, but the compilation did really good and still doing good. I want to try to take this Creatures Asylum thing that I started on Instagram, which was just going to be me posting random pictures and stuff of like this day in history, and post a concert ticket stub or whatever. But I kind of want to just make it like a show. And I've toyed around with like, should I make it like a podcast form? But there's so many things. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet. But this might be the end of the road for Kiss, but it's not my end of the road when it pertains to Kiss.
Yeah, I think we're the ones that are going to be continuing to pave new roads for the band. And it's going to be the fans that are going to keep this thing moving forward, as it should be.
Yeah. And I made a post on Facebook right after the show and posted pictures of me and my kids in makeup. And I made this long post. I won't go through the whole thing, obviously, because I know you want to get out of here. I want to eat. But, just saying, it was passed down to me from my parents, who both love the band. And, my dad saw him for the first time at the Garden in 77. And, I got to see him. The first time was with my mom, who saw her first Kiss concert with my dad on the Asylum tour in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And then I got to see him for the first time with my mom on the farewell tour. So I got to see the original 4. And then I got to see this lineup in 04 with my dad. and my brother, and then I got to pass it down to my kids.
That's cool.
So,
that's great.
Yep. So the whole family, we're all Kiss freaks, Kiss geeks, Kiss nerds, whatever you want to call it.
That's right.
But and you know, my older kids have moved on to other styles of music, but my youngest, there's a reason why he has my first name, because he is the true Kiss fan still, and the next generation. So he talks about it with his friends and shares it, and even my nephew, who my sister I took with us to the last show that we went to, her son is a Kiss fan, and that's his favorite band, and he's 7.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's always going to be there. They're going to pass it down, I'm sure. So
yeah,
they're always going to be here. But before I start getting emotional again, I'm gonna
right. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. All right. Again, Rob, it was a pleasure finally getting to talk to you.
Yes, definitely.
And I've seen you guys on YouTube. I've listened to your pod, and it's great. So check out Right Between the Eyes, because it's awesome. And almost anything Kiss related is awesome.
Almost.
There's a few things.
There's a couple.
I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Anyways, all right. We will talk to you later.
Right.
Love you all.
Peace.
Mean it. Bye.